Enjoy your day. Later. What kind of fucking music are they playing out there? These kids think they're in a four-star restaurant or something. I think I'll have the shrimp cocktail. I don't feel like I'm on. Really? That's an unusual color. Oh, no. My phone just told me I'm on. Okay, so I'm on. It's a very official. Welcome to me being on. I'm Marijuana Man. This is From Under the Influence. As always, here on Wednesday, except last Wednesday and some other Wednesdays. But today, as always. Well, welcome to the show. Here we are in Vancouver. And the weather puts the fun in Vancouver, I gotta say. The rest of Canada is in some throes of winter, apparently. Holy cow. Record amounts of snowfall in Toronto, and then just searingly cold temperatures. Winnipeg's colder than Mars today. That's what it said. Like, oh, wow. I don't know how cold Mars is. You could tell me how fucking cold it's going to be. Why don't you just say what the temperature's going to be? Oh, I got to go online, fucking look up the temperature of Mars, and then go, it's going to be colder than that number. So, in effect, Weather Canada told me nothing. Absolutely useless information. The world's like that. We like to measure stuff in ways. Football fields, of course, are one of the better ways to measure stuff. I don't know. If you can't give me the number and let me figure it out myself. Maybe I don't want to use football fields. Maybe I want to use, I don't know, the parking lot down at the end of the block in front of that convenience store. Yeah. Measure local is my, well, speaking of measure, let's smoke a joint. That's a little better, the music coming from the lounge. So yeah, never a fucking dull moment in the cannabis world. It's just completely insane here in Canada. Appreciate all those people joining in on the chats that are flinging around the big screen in front of me. I'm not too sure where Al is. He might be in one of those winter places. Probably can't get cell coverage when it's 200 below. Yeah, it's crazy in Australia. Some fucking heat wave that flash fried the place. Oh, it was fucking 40. Yeah, really. One closer to the sun. I would have to think, holy fuck, it was like 45 degrees everywhere. So, tragedies everywhere in that searing kind of temperatures, too. So, thoughts go out to both the hot and the cold out there. Here in Vancouver, it's been unseasonably warm, although Health Canada would never put it that way. They say it's 9 degrees, but feels like 7. They could make up what the real temperature is. They could say it's 20, but it feels like 7. It doesn't matter, really, because in my house it's 20. I'm standing there looking outside going, how cold is it? And they go, wow.
As soon as I step out, it feels way
It's 9 if you're just looking out the window, but where you're standing, it's 20. No, it's very confusing. The weather people have, I don't know, they got nothing to do. They're just making shit up to stay in business. Really, like their stuff. I always see the one that says the visibility today is 16 kilometers. Huh. Except for fucking Mount Baker, which I can see from here. I don't know how that equates to that I can only see 16 kilometers. That's just the other side of Richmond or something, isn't it? Stuff. There's a big fucking wall you can't see past because it's 16. I don't get it. I'm not sure who that is for in the forecast. Really? Who knows? A pilot? But he should be, I don't know. You go, okay, well, they'll leave when visibility is a lot less and they have instruments. So I don't get it. But I think I'm not supposed to pay attention. Is the difference. I think that's what they know now, that the world really isn't paying attention. I don't know whether it's because I consume cannabis. A lot of my friends do and see the world quite more critically than most. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I sure see the world in its nonsense and craziness, and quite often wonder why it needs to be that way. I don't know. I'm a true believer in letting the universe guide me, and I'm very grateful for the guidance that I receive. But some days it fucking makes you wonder. I'm standing out in front of my shop having a smoke. Guy was coming down the street who is local panhandler, and I don't know, flashed in my mind and I don't very often give him anything, and flashed in my mind to do that. And as I turned around, traffic had stopped in the street behind me, and the only thing that I could see was the sign on the side of the bus that said, "Mental health affects everyone." And I'm going, oh my God, like, I had to laugh at the instant messaging, right? So I turned and, of course, gave him some money, and I have a few times since then as a result of that. So, it's fucking, life's good. Depends how you look at stuff. It really does depend how you see it. I've been fairly lucky in my life to be, I don't know, to know that there's humor in a lot of things, I think is what I feel luckiest about, because I try to find the humor in that which I see and hear all the time. So I'm tending to see life from a funny point of view. It's not always something that I could share. Maybe it's not in good taste or whatever, but there's a joke. There is a joke in everything. Trust me. So I do have that point of view. And I also realize as one gets older and you see stuff and you experience things, not much of it matters in the long run, really. That's the interesting part. So, a lot of things you don't even remember now. Who was that person? I can't remember their name anymore. And you go, wow, the amount of time and effort that was put into whatever. So, And I don't know everything. I have to make up a lot of stuff. So might as well make up fun things. What the fuck have you got to lose? You have nothing to lose by looking at life from a funny and fun point of view. Like, really? The world seems to be hell-bent on allowing us to approach our lives from a very negative point of view all the time. A position of, I want more, I don't have enough, you need this, you gotta, right? It's in forums to allow us to cry the blues out in public and stuff. So people aren't encouraged to have fun. You might as well. What the fuck have you got to lose? You're on your deathbed going, oh, wish I hadn't had so much fun in my life. But you do. You have to make up shit because you don't have room in your head to know it all, right? You've really got to come to some very arbitrary conclusions as to what things are so your head doesn't explode. You see that a lot. But no, you have to make it up. So why not make up good things? Because then you're leaping into life from that point of view, good things. And you might as well. You got nothing to lose. So, I don't know. Things happen and I carry on. But, yeah, it's ugly here in the world when it comes to cannabis. You know, like I don't even know what to fucking think anymore. It's just so crazy out there in the world now. Who we couldn't have imagined in our wildest dreams that it would go like this, right? And the reason that we protest, people go, oh, well, it's legalized, you should be happy. And you go, well, it's just the worst thing that they possibly could come up with. Quite frankly, I can't find any part of their legalization that makes any sense or is necessary. Not one thing. Other than to, I don't know what. It makes no sense. So much of it is so very frustrating. And I don't know. Years ago when it was illegal, it was a lot easier. There weren't so many people taking advantage of us as there is now. All right? Now everybody is, because it's moved into the legal realm, which is fucking a frightening circus. And everyone is trying desperately to figure out how to take advantage of this. And I'm sure they would even use those words. But you go, wow. It's just brutal, the shit they come up with, because they want to sell whatever angle that they think they can take advantage of. I saw a story this morning. I can't remember where it was. Kimberley, BC, potentially. Maybe. This woman who runs a fucking compliance, I don't know what it is, human resources service, spoke to the business community about cannabis in the workplace and how she might not have been Kimberly. Kamloops. I think it was Kamloops, maybe. One of those K places in BC. We're looking for this story here to... Yeah, there it is. Kamloops area trades. Area trades employer. What the fuck is that? Kamloops area trades employer warned of dangers of cannabis in the workplace. Now, the dangers of cannabis in the workplace. And quite frankly, nowhere in the article did they ever say what those dangers were. The woman that presented this runs a business that she suggested throughout that they all need to adopt so that they can come up with policies to ban cannabis in the workplace. She says it has no place in the workplace, cannabis. She doesn't know anything about cannabis. But she's standing in front of these people. She's saying recreational cannabis is the same as liquor in the workplace. It can't be done. She says, do your salespeople go out and have a glass with customers at lunch? Do they drink on the golf course with customers? We're not talking about that. We're saying as far as on the workplace, there are no rules. It's just flat out never. Is what she said. You go, wow, like, really? She said that employers have the right to conduct drug testing, have an impairment-free workplace, and terminate employees in violation of drug policies. Who the fuck is this? This is just a person in business. This is like a plumber coming to your house. No different. It's just a job that she's created for herself. And coming out with these wild, concocted statements based on nothing. Here's another funny thing she said. She said, these are not complex policies that you have to write. She said, I'm writing one right now. It's about 8-9 pages long, including a title page. Why the fuck did she tell me that? Including a title page. Because she's so proud that she wrote it and she did it. Eh? No, she's just treating it like it's, I don't know. She's treating it like she doesn't know what it is. You can't fire them. And there's insurance, and there's all this stuff that you got to worry about now because it's cannabis. But she never once said what the dangers are. She just blanket threw it in with everything else and said never. Not, none, don't. I wish we could sue her. Like, really. I wish there was some way to go, shut the fuck up. And she's just selling a product. That's all she's doing, is creating a need for her to sell her product. Using cannabis, taking advantage of cannabis, and that nobody seems to question anything anybody says about it. Never. You have to ban it. Huh. Few studies I've read in my lifetime about cannabis in the workplace suggest that cannabis users are way more productive than the pinheads that are out drinking on the golf course with the customers. And they can be drunk all night and come in all hungover and not do as good a job, not because they're drunk, but because they're hungover, because they poured poison in their body all night. That's okay, all right? It's all condoned. And what a bunch of horse shit. She should go find out about cannabis first and shut the fuck up. Don't. But the world is just jam full of these middlemen. Somebody trying to get between cannabis and you over something that they're selling. Right? Everything. Something they're selling. So. Another story I read was Canopy Growth is slated to become the titan of cannabis worldwide. The titan.
They always trying to fight the Titans, kill the Titans. Wasn't they always a problem?
I don't.
Wasn't that the whole
Titans.
Jason Leone act? They weren't so great.
I don't know. I don't know the story well enough, but I don't know. It's been my experience in life. People who predict that they are going to be a certain thing in any way never become that thing. Some fucking gears instantly take place in the universe to make sure that ain't gonna happen. You don't fucking... I don't know. I can't imagine Canopy Growth came up with that. Probably the pinhead journalist that wrote all the glowingness about them in the article. So then I see posts out there, from a certain lawyer friend of ours that used to work with us, who now works for them, congratulating Canopy Growth on how well they've done and how amazing it is that they've come this far in only 5 years. And you go, wow, anyone could do that. What they've done nothing. They've just promised to do shit and been given unbelievable amounts of money to play with. Anybody could become the titan of cannabis on this planet. And what have they done? Nothing. Certainly nothing for Canada. They don't have any seeds. They don't have any clones. They don't have any weed. Whoops. Yet they're out there making all these deals, getting more investors to give them billions more dollars to expand to become the titan of cannabis. Except you don't have to have any cannabis. And that's okay. Like, really, if you want to go out there and do that, go ahead. But you shouldn't support a system that doesn't allow me to do the same or have cannabis. Really, I don't want to do the same. Just have cannabis. Like, what the fuck? So, yeah, you don't have any weed. And like, I don't know. So many people tell me out of the blue how lousy the weed is and how come there's none. What is Nova Scotia? Was it their very first store that ever opened there has now gone out of business. That's how quick that happened and will continue to happen across the land. What the fuck's going on here? Did they forget to legalize cannabis? In their rush to make companies like Canopy Growth and Aurora and Tilray rich? And go spread out. What? Like I say, I don't care what they do, but you haven't got any weed, and the little that is coming through ain't that good. So, and then they keep saying how many years into the future this will continue. Like, how can you predict that unless you're prepared to do nothing to change it? And they don't care. Canopy Growth doesn't care. They don't have any weed. Nobody's asked them to fucking come up with any weed. Hey, there's Jody.
I was watching Pot TV.
Well, good. You might as well be on Pot TV.
I haven't tried this book, so.
Nice. I have several hundred.
Okay, I also got two. Hi.
We got a microphone. Lovely to see you.
Yeah. Chill out. We're in here. It's chilly.
Isn't it, though? It's fucking winter here in Vancouver.
Yeah. Our winters are
What a nice
brutal. There's
surprise.
daffodils and there's, blossoms and sunshine sometimes. Yeah. It's not the 25 feet of snow, but Thank
It
you.
feels like spring here. And it's been unusually warm and
Yes.
very mild winter. So
Yeah, it's true.
that's what it should be.
People kept saying, "Oh, this has never happened," but someone was like, "No, the Olympics. Remember when we had
Yep.
2010 Olympics?
It was very
They,
mild then.
They had to bring
they
in
had no
trucks
snow.
to snow.
Yeah, just sitting here railing about the cannabis world.
No kidding, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like nobody's trying very hard for this to work.
Except for those who benefit. You know, this is the
Well, Canopy Growth, I was about to say, is able to continue to make vast amounts of money and not provide any cannabis.
Isn't
That's
that
not
amazing?
been a priority, it would seem, because they've been allowed to go public. They should have never been. They should have been given that license to provide cannabis to Canadians and not go public.
Oh my gosh, no, they've made a lot of deals for themselves. You know, they're very well positioned, which is
Oh, they're going to become the Titan, it said. The Titan of cannabis worldwide.
well, as I've often joked, canopy. What is a canopy? Well, it's plant matter that grows above all the other little plants and strangles off
Kills
life.
them off.
And
Yeah, another story around Canopy Growth today, too.
oh really?
The guy who started GUR, Tokyo Smoke, who parlayed that into a paycheck of $250 million from Canopy Growth and a position at Canopy Growth, today he quit.
Wait, are you talking about Alan Gertner?
Yes.
Yeah, Tokyo Smoke's founder. And they aren't even replacing him because his job was pointless anyway.
Yeah.
It was just a
He's
way
going
to
on
make money.
sabbatical, he said. You go, yeah, you bet you are. You're
This
fucking
guy.
rich beyond your wildest dreams for having done absolutely nothing in the cannabis world. Absolutely nothing, folks. He didn't do anything.
No, he's a
opened-
nothing except come in with his Google money and be like, I'm going to open up stores, including one right down the block. It sits right over there. It's empty except for some weird, ugly stuff in the window. And they don't even need to do a thing to make money. They just sit there waiting and waiting and waiting for people like us to get squashed out.
It's just so crazy that that's a possibility that people can do that, right? And as I read it this morning, I thought, boy, I'm fucking pretty stupid. Why didn't I go at it from that point of view? I could have got $250 million for doing something.
But people have said
Right?
this, and I said, well, like they go, why are you complaining? You know, I heard you say, why are you guys complaining? I'm like, well, for one, if I really wanted to make a ton of money selling weed on the underground, I could have done it. But that's not my thing. That's not what I want to do. I could have joined a big licensed producer. Get this, I was getting invites a couple of years ago saying, Jody, if you just renounced everything you said criticizing the new system, you could be part of our company. We could put you on the board of directors. And I'm like, here's my answer. No way. Get out of here. No, I'm quite distressed by the way this is all going, quite frankly.
It's not easy to see this going on, and fairly disturbing too that no one came and asked. Like they just didn't want to know what we had to say.
No, they changed their meetings. They uninvited us.
What an odd thing. We were the very people, and the only people, I might add, that ever asked for this to be legalized. So I'm not too sure why the Liberals did. Why did they legalize cannabis?
Get votes and say that they were legalizing it, but then they promised everyone else, if you just start a medical licensed producer now, we'll make sure you're the only recreational grower, and there's going to be supply shortages for 5 years. Oh, these tweets, I just tweeted yesterday.
I saw that.
This is outrageous.
They've bumped it up to 5 years now.
And it's not, there is no shortage. There's like no shortage of weed. There's only artificial shortages to inflate the value of the very few who got the golden tickets. And I mean, when we say this is all messed up, and it's not really actually. It's going exactly according to plan. These are very devious, powerful forces at play, including alcohol, pharma, military industrial, which is deeply tied in with policing and
Everyone trying to take advantage of cannabis as hard as they can.
abuse. This is drug abuse.
Yeah. And that's okay. Right? If you want to take it to pharma and into your booze and all this sort of shit, go right ahead.
Leave us alone, though.
Leave us alone. We haven't hurt anyone.
You know, I've used your quote, in one of my tweets a while ago. I said, damn, instead of saying legalize it, we should have just said, leave us alone. That's it. That's all. Like, that's it. Just stay out of our lives. Because, I will say I was recently in another country to visit opportunities in the legal landscape. And immediately I realized that I was stuck in an abusive relationship. Canada is an abusive relationship. So you go to another country where it's a little more relaxed and you say, well, could we run a business here? And they go, yeah, no problem. And then you go, okay, well, what about, all the permits and the like $20,000 to do the paperwork and the special criminal investigation background, financial audit, forensics, all that stuff. Like, what about all that? And they're like, no, that's not necessary. You get a building permit, you get a retail permit, and you're good to go. And I was like, wait, so you mean like the government doesn't say to you, hey, you can get legal if you do this, and then when you do what they tell you, they smack you across the face? That doesn't happen here? And I'm like, no. And I started realizing, damn, Canada, you've been pretty awful to me.
Yeah.
You said to me, hey, we love what you do. Let's work together. I'm like, awesome. Then they go, nah, get out of here. And I'm like, well, can't I have a say? And they go, oh, sure. Here, have a say. And I come and I start speaking and they smack me in the face or literally roll their eyes like the mayor of Vancouver did. Literally rolling his eyes at us at City Hall. So then they say, oh, go get a permit. And we try and get a permit and they say, nope, not available. And we go, oh. And then everything they tell you to do, you try and do it to please them so you don't get hit. And then they hit you. Yeah. So it's like, Canada, I'm kind of this close to breaking up with you. Because I just went and saw this other country, and they were awfully nice. They were sweet. They weren't horrible and oppressive and punitive and all that. So I started to realize, wow, this is not a healthy relationship with Canada.
It's true.
Yeah.
I think the world knows that about Canada, that these people are just wickedly fucking sly.
I mean, even people in other countries where Canopy and others are making deals, the news will say, oh, medical is available in Denmark or wherever, whatever they say. And then people actually live there are like, actually, no. You can hardly get the prescription. And if you do, there's actually not any cannabis to buy. And if there is, it's actually too expensive to obtain. So it's a joke. I remember Mark and I at one point met an activist or a patient in Rome. And he said, he had his prescription. And he's like, yeah, it's legal for medical in Italy. But he's like, this prescription for Bedrocan, first of all, is no cannabis. Secondly, can I smoke this prescription to get my medical relief? No, I can't put this in a pipe and smoke it. So it's like this prescription was worthless because there's no actual cannabis. I'm sick of it all. It's very strange.
Yeah, it's a very unusual thing. It seems, I don't know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you go, wow, like, it just doesn't look like they want to do this. They hate us so much.
They'll never let us be rewarded. Because if can you imagine the government saying, sorry about all the times we arrested you and stole your stuff and said you're criminals and all that, but now you're okay. Now you're all right. They're never going to
do that.
They're never going to
let
be rewarded with not here anyway. Because, I'll never forget a conversation I had with a new industry rep. We were on TV doing pundit shows for a while, way back when she was running for office. She now runs a few different organizations and magazines and whatnot in the news space. Not a cannabis consumer that I know of, but anyway, decent enough lady. But she went out with me for brunch early 2018, a year ago. I'd just been sentenced. Life was kind of rough. The new industry was kind of being douchey. And she sat down with me. And she said, Jody, it makes me so sad that you can't have a say at these events and the consultations. And, I really wish you could be there. But, the the reason that they don't want you around is because, you say things that make them feel bad.
Yeah.
Never forget it. Because I was like, right. Because I tell the truth and I illustrate and point out where they're failing or hurting people intentionally, they don't like that. And this happened just at one last event I spoke to. It's probably the last event I'm ever going to take part in for a variety of reasons. But this event, everyone's cheering about their mergers and announcements. And I'm like, oh, today we had to lay off 50 people and close down our stores, and that we don't get to celebrate. But I remember after speaking, everyone's mingling, drinking their booze, no weed allowed, and then someone that I knew from the Green Party some time ago, now in the industry, of course, he sees me, he's like, oh, how are you doing? How's it going? And I said, oh, a bit rough lately. Because it was all over the news, that we were losing all our stores. And he was like, well, haven't you tried to apply for permits? I'm like, yes, of course we did. And he's like, well, what about getting new locations? And I'm like, well, it's pretty difficult, and they redo the maps around and stuff. And he, too, also said, because I described how difficult things were trying to get legal, and he said, well, what if you just kind of stopped speaking out so much about the government and stuff? Maybe it would be easier for you then. And that's when I began to, I'm really realizing now that, what am I in this for? Why am I in the, I'm not in it to make pot stocks and invest with I'm not in it to just sell pounds of weed underground. I'm in it to speak the truth. And right now, speaking truth is very dangerous. And you can get attacked in all sorts of ways.
Yeah, the entire world begins to attack you now.
Oh, yes.
Used to be just a couple of bodies, but now it's
yeah.
the whole world because they want their peace.
And all the people who used to be our allies, who used to speak truth too, they've compromised and stopped speaking out so that they can get in. So then when I do keep speaking out, or others like us keep sharing the truth, those who feel the same way we do, but feel really guilty because they're not speaking out, because they're cashing in, those people start to turn against you. They start to become the enemy. They start asking for what the government wants, which is for truth tellers to shut up and go away. Why? Because it makes them feel bad. So I realized a lot recently that government, big business competitors will stop at nothing to destroy truth tellers. And it's a fascinating lesson to learn. Yeah. And again, reinforces why we're here, though. I'm like, I don't need to win a popularity contest. I don't need a bunch of tweets or business deals. I need to speak the truth on behalf of the people who are suffering, and we're still doing that.
Yeah, it's stunning how, like I said earlier, we couldn't have imagined in our wildest dreams that this is the way it would end up or be. Right? You go, wow, how fucking ugly. Yeah. And I take it personally too, because they just fucking came and looked at what we offered all of these years. We were not silent here about cannabis and the way it could be and should be in our world. We showed you by the tens of, maybe hundreds of thousands of people marched on these streets every year and were completely ignored. By all levels of government. What the fuck's going on here? What are you supposed to do?
Oh, and then now they all get to come out and be like, oh, guess what? We've discovered that cannabis is helpful for people who are suffering. Aren't we wonderful government and policy officials? Because we're going to look into this unknown miracle about marijuana. It's like I'm seeing Canopy Growth plastering their logo on a professor at UBC, the University of British Columbia. And they go, oh, how wonderful. We're going to study how cannabis helps with the opioid crisis. We're going to have a professor studying how cannabis can support in the opioid crisis. And I'm like, bravo. How come you lobbied to raid the dispensaries that were actually supplying the medicine, not just paying a professor with your logo on his jacket so you can get stock boost for looking into it? Now they all get to come around and be like, oh, even these new industry people, I can't believe them. They criticize dispensaries and illegal cannabis. And then a whole bunch of them recently started tweeting about support the cannabis substitution projects. Support the opioid overdose site that gives out here. Drop off your cannabis for these people. And I'm thinking, hold up a minute, because before you guys started acting like heroes, everyone else that you lobbied against and campaigned against were already doing that. So it's okay if you guys, with your Canopy logo and your professorships, get to give out your. I don't even know what cannabis they're saying they're giving, which is the other question. But
Ooh, they don't have any for anybody else.
well, that's the thing. There is no weed. But it just and this is a dilemma, because in my mind I'm thinking that it's turned me sour on what should be good work. Like, it should be something to celebrate that there's more research. We should be celebrating and enjoying that there's more interest in this. But it's really hard to celebrate that when, like you said, we've been writing about this and covering this for decades, and
Yeah.
and called liars and propagandists. The DEA said propagandist magazine about cannabis culture. I mean, these governments, and now they get to act like the heroes and the liberators, and it's just something else. I don't know.
Yeah, it's it's mind-boggling from our point of view.
We're going insane
You
for
can
me for
appreciate
madness.
it,
It's
but-
making me nuts.
So here's another new player in the game. Some clown. Used to be a city councillor in Surrey, BC. Is now in the cannabis business. Of here's, I think, loosely as I understand it, here his plan is to amalgamate medical growers together, calling them craft cannabis, and I don't know, making some foray into it. But he talks so glibly about how famous BC is with the BC bud, and really we should be taking advantage of. And I'm going, you're a fucking city councillor from Surrey, the most evil place when it comes to cannabis there is in Canada.
Yes, yeah.
Right? They hate cannabis and have outlawed it completely, except they have the big warehouse for all of the bud in the lower mainland.
And that's like their fire chief, Len Garris. This guy's just
Lies his
credited
face
in
off.
court. You had court judges saying this guy's full of nonsense. Like,
So, I don't
they
know.
could claim their bragging rights.
At every turn, at every level of government, they are trying to figure out how to take advantage of cannabis as it goes across their desk.
And can you imagine being the guy with a resume for a cannabis industry job that says, so yeah, I spent decades raiding grow ops and arresting people for it and like burning the stuff and destroying it. I'm ultra experienced. Hire me. I mean, this is incredible. Do you actually see this? This is the resumes of these people. They go, oh, I was in the business of trying to eradicate it, so I know everything about it. Holy moly.
Well, we had an interesting thing happen at the shop. Young fella comes in and uses, I've seen him in there before, customer uses the ATM and said that he was going to go grab some groceries and be back, get some weed. And somehow the staff went, like, that's odd, because doesn't he work at Evergreen, the licensed store around the corner? And they said, well, we're going to ask him. And they're kind of, and rightly so, these kids are fucking losing their jobs.
Yeah.
Right. So city wants to shut us down. I'm pretty sure Evergreen, the very first day, talked about making sure they eradicate the illegal dispensaries.
Oh,
Very
he
first day
did.
they opened.
Oh, he did. He said in the news that they should be shut down. No, I called him out on the news for that too.
So they, the staff decided amongst themselves that they didn't feel comfortable selling weed to this guy when he comes back. So when
We say no to narcs.
he did come back and wanted to buy something, and we just held up the, I don't know, table weed jar that we have and said, well, this is all we'll sell to you. Right? And he kind of, first they asked if he did work at that dispensary, and so he said that he did, and
So what is he doing over there breaking the law? Yeah.
so They said, no, we're not even interested in selling you weed. Why aren't you buying weed at your own shop?
Good question. Very fair question.
And why are you here having said and working for people who said we should be arrested?
Yeah, I think that's a legit.
So he said, he said, I don't know. He said, I'm not very political, but he said, that's okay. I don't mind it. No, right? No hard feelings
You
or
gotta
whatever.
understand at least.
So the next day, I get a phone call. Somebody inquiring out of the blue for one of the girls that works there. And I said, no, she's not here. When will she be? And I'm going like, who are you calling and why are you asking me this? Blah, 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 blah. It turns out it was the guy from Evergreen.
Call him.
And he said, one of my employees was in your shop using the ATM, and apparently your staff berated him, or whatever the word you used, about working at Evergreen. I'm going, yeah. I said, I was here. And I said, no. I said, he used the ATM and then wanted to buy weed, and they chose not to sell it to him. And I said, the reason is because you said that we should all be arrested and shut down. First day, they fucking opened.
Yeah.
He says, well, it didn't mean your shop.
Oh, right. Yeah,
And I
okay.
went, well, I said, you said all illegal shops, and we're probably the closest one to you. But I said, no. I said, your people should. I said, I'm stunned that your people aren't buying their weed at your shop.
Yeah, I want to know the answer to that.
And crossing over into black market world to buy their weed, even though, plus this shop with the license used to sell black market weed until they got their license.
That's one of the most aggravating parts. Like
And leaping
at least-
right into it.
Yeah, 'cause at least you're a newbie and you've never been in the previous world. You can like, man, don't do illegal, blah blah blah. But if you're actually someone who was, that's what I'm talking about. These people who are on our side before, and as soon as they get the golden ticket or any sort of kiss from the government on their butts, they go, oh, that felt good. I'm gonna do what they tell me to, sir. Yes, sir.
Hoop jumpers.
Yep, turncoats.
Well, whatever. But still. So anyway, it continued. And he goes, well, no. He said, the employee said that he did not try to buy weed, that he only used the ATM.
Baloney.
And I said, well, that's not true. I said, I was here and saw it. And he said, well, I believe my employee over you. Which led me to say, well, fuck you.
Yeah. Have your employee and his lies and yours too. We're just gonna sit over here with the truth.
Now you have a dishonest employee.
And that's
But
something
what
that's
an odd
even-
thing.
I know. This is what we're dealing with. It's making me question entirely. Actually, so I read a book.
Well, he
recently
feels
into it.
bad. And you were right about that. You know, he tried to grease me when he first talked to me about having worked at the
sorry.
Davie location.
it's
No, I was the
cool.
guy who worked
I'm your
Eden when it
friend.
was there. Yeah, trying to be on
Yeah,
our
I've
side.
seen
And,
that too.
and then, right? And you go, wow.
Well, kiss your butt and trying
Why
to
do
be
you
all
care?
chummy.
You feel bad.
Well, this is an awkward situation for them, and it's a strange transition time because there's a lot of talk now about the old industry and the new industry, and I've been around for 15 years this April, so I feel like that's some time, but I know it's not as much as many others, and so.
It's been everybody's whole life.
Yeah, right?
Right, so
Smoke a joint
however
once,
old you
you're
are.
totally into it. But remember, the government said that cannabis is not allowed to be presented as a way of life. So don't you dare. And to that, I'm going to challenge that. I'm going to say cannabis is my way of life, like being a yogi or a vegan or a motorbiker or whatever, or bicyclist. For that gang out there, they're powerful.
You allow booze to show a way of life all the time. Come on. There's a truck that runs through our neighborhood selling beer, giant
Alcohol
beer
everywhere.
truck, and an image of somebody leaping off of a cliff into the water.
Being drunk and doing
Is
crazy
that
stuff.
not a fucking celebration of fun, lifestyle, vitality? This is the word that they use with cannabis, is you cannot show vitality.
Glamour or excitement or daring. And I'm like, that defines cannabis activists.
Well, I
glamorous,
looked up
daring.
vitality.
Yeah.
Vitality means life.
So
You're
so-
alive. Can't show anybody alive.
Actually, that's true. One of the government of in Canada, one of the provinces, I don't remember which one, I'm sorry, but it was in the eastern provinces. They had their online government cannabis store, and the original images, like they had this sativa indica hybrid, or they had some sections, right? And to illustrate the sections, they had images of stock photos of people having a jolly good time, like, you know, Granny and Grant smiling and some young hip urban kid laughing, you know, so they probably had their images of people. And then they got told by Health Canada, no. You cannot have people smiling or laughing or doing things in your... So they had to replace it all with trees and mountains, like every other freaking LP website out there. It's like, oh, cannabis is made of rock and tree bark, because like these photos they're showing, they're not allowed to depict it in certain ways.
So the federal government pretends that their mandate for legalizing cannabis is to protect the youth, eradicate the black market, and restrict access. Right? They're doing the best at only one of those things, and that's restricting access.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's sad though, like it's sad access restrictions, like really tragic stories. I'm getting moms writing about their kids having seizures now because they can't.
No, it's
like horrible
sad
stories
and
of
silly.
suffering.
It's absolutely
Just
silly.
the profits of a few, right? Like that's the most infuriating part about it. Is that it's not even necessary except for greed. Like
Well, it
greed, and-
instantly turned into that because that's how ugly real business is.
Yeah, that's what this mainstreaming of marijuana meant. It was like, oh crap, it's going to turn into every other corrupt industry out there. Jeez.
If you want to teach business in school, just show them this emerging cannabis industry. Go, that's what it's like. Are you ready for this?
Make sure you have a friend in power in government. Oh, like the convenient Ontario lottery winners, one of which is the sister of Canopy Growth's recreational retail chief.
Really?
Absolutely. We got all the evidence of it. She
that's
works for the
pretty
government.
lucky.
Pretty lucky. It's one of only 5 being given in the Western region, which is near Detroit and the border by Windsor. It's the most populous region. It's including Hamilton and other areas. And somehow, Lisa Biglione, her brother David, Canopy Growth, check him out. Head of recreational retail. Oh, my sister won. And then this is happening in a lot of other instances too in this
Really?
random lottery.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And I
Maybe-
sent this to news reporters. Like every news station in Canada had it, and they were going to investigate further because there are other people with insider connections. Plus, Health Canada is kind of asking the winners of the lottery, who are you talking to? Who are you doing business with? And how? Because it's illegal to sell your license to them or to, you know, there's certain things they're not supposed to do, but all these LPs are trying to find sneaky ways, or what is it, creative compliance they call it, to be able to get these lottery winners. Because remember, these are random people who know nothing about cannabis at all, who entered for $75 and won, and now they're like, whoa, what? I have to open a store or lose $50,000 to the government? That's the deal. They have to open a store and be functioning by April 1st, and the end of April, they lose $50,000 to the government. So, of course, you get people like Fire and Flower and Canopies, Tokyo Smoke, which is Gertner and all them, coming around and going, hey, so we can't own it, but we could creatively comply and make it so, you know, just give us the money and we'll give you some. And so there's all this shady stuff going on in Ontario, so whatever.
Yep.
But you know what, as I was saying about the history of this movement, and I've got my 15 years I'm looking at, and cannabis culture is 25 years old this April. And then you see things like, you know, Tweed and others have been around for 5 years. I'm like, you know, that's a third of my time. That's some time. You know, eventually over time, but I read something sad that's making me question stuff. You know, I read a book called The Art of Not Giving a Fuck, or The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Anyway, it's popular. It's been out there. I have a ton of books on my shelves, and I
Don't need
haven't
to be
read
subtle.
one. It might just be the art of. You know, I can't remember. But one of the stories, and it was about a Japanese warrior soldier from World War II. I forget his name, and I feel really bad about it. But anyway, this is a true story. he was sent off to the Philippines to keep fighting the war. You know, the Americans, and we got to fight them. So go to the Philippines, stay in the jungle, do guerrilla warfare, and never, ever stop fighting for Japan and the emperor and the empire. So he goes. And then the war ends soon after. And, you know, the airplanes are dropping pamphlets that say the war is over, surrender, return. And he looks at it and he's like, no, it's a trick. It's a trick. I must stay true to my empire. So he stays true by eating bugs and living in the dirt and doing warfare and killing innocent people and like still fighting this war for the empire that he believed in and devoted his entire life to for his people, his culture, his community. So for decades, he's out there doing this, 30 years almost, when a wandering hippie guy who decides to find him does by wandering in the jungle and saying, the emperor wants to find you, the emperor wants to. And so finally he finds this guy, comes out, goes on the news, goes back to Japan, and realizes that 30 years after, the Japan he was fighting for wasn't there. The Japan and the empire, the culture he was living for and lived in the dirt for and sacrificed for and gave his all for his people and his thing, it didn't exist. It was gone. And he'd wasted his life. So, like, I'm still kind of sitting back right now looking at the cannabis community. I'm starting to wonder, like, what is this community? Because I know we have all the craft growers and all the people, but many of them have been underground out of necessity and need to keep doing that to keep, you know, getting the good flowers out there. But then you've got like the business people, and there's all sorts, but most of them now, and as we know, like the cannabis pool that was like this big before, we were all in it, is this, like it's huge. It's everybody in every government and every business and everybody and their dog is getting into cannabis, literally.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, well, wait, who's that community? Because also over the years, I've seen people who have said they were our friends and stuff. You know, they turn on us and they get weird about us and they say, oh, you know, cannabis culture's just in it for the money. And I'm like, guys, you were there. We were broke. We had prison. We had what? And you're like all sorts of strange things. And people who were once friends turn against you. And then business competitors start to attack you and try and destroy your activism work. And then you're going, hold up. Who am I fighting for here? Because I don't like the government officials involved. I don't like the big business people involved. I don't like the ones telling me to stop speaking truth. I don't like the ones trying to distract me and destroy my work because we're in business competition together. And then I start to wonder, who is the community? It might just be about 10 to 15 people I can count on my hands that I can actually trust and that I care about. But this is sad that I'm thinking these things, but as the industry keeps evolving,
Maybe
and changing,
16.
Maybe 60. But it's sad. Like I don't know what have we been fighting for all this time? Is there still a fight to be had? I mean, there's obviously more unfairness, more injustice, more punishments, more problems than ever before. But quite frankly, like you said, we've been telling them forever about this. Like every interview I do is just goddamn Groundhog Day. And then I go find an interview I did a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, same goddamn thing over and over. And it's like,
Ain't nobody listening.
and that's the thing. And it's like, if they're basically telling us, fuck off, smack in the face, get out of here. I'm like, geez, wait, what am I fighting for? So I don't know. These are strange times. I'm just throwing. You guys are witness to my therapy session I'm having right here because wow, it's interesting.
Well, I don't know what voice of the people has been louder in Canada longer and more often than the cannabis community.
Right?
To be completely and utterly ignored.
And then attacked even.
And then
Totally
attacked.
like dragged through the mud.
But like, how many people do you need here? Like a handful of people on 420 can call the city and complain, and there's big fucking brouhaha about it.
Even though 100 and 200,000 people are totally thrilled. and
Anybody
happy.
who complains gets some satisfaction.
I got some
Except
complaints.
us.
Yeah, I got complaints. Where's my mega platform?
So it's a very unusual thing here, how crooked this all is, right? And how, I don't know, for some surprising reason, they just don't want us anywhere near it. People who actually care about this and are talking about the idea that it shouldn't be regulated, doesn't need to be regulated, there's nothing wrong with it. Isn't our society measured upon the danger that I am facing here? The rules that I need around it? How come kids can't drink alcohol? Well, it's dangerous. Right? Like it's that simple.
There's no child.
But-
rights on those.
Not one bit of evidence to suggest that cannabis is in any way dangerous.
It's only dangerous to authority. You question authority?
So,
That's fine.
isn't that what needs to be pounded into their faces, these stupid politicians that are constantly thinking that they should take advantage of us? Why the fuck are you doing this to us? Why do you need to charge us a $30,000 license for a fucking retail outlet?
And that's just like that's one price on top of all the others involved.
Make up childish rules about the distance you should be from things. Why? How is this even possible that this has happened? A person selling cigarettes can open very close to a school and
Candy.
also have candy in there to attract kids into their shop. So fair enough. There's nothing wrong with that. But all we really do is say, hey, don't sell smokes to the kids that you've invited into your shop. A cannabis shop could not invite the children in. They're not allowed to get in. Do you get it? Do you understand that you said already they can't come in?
Not even allowed to walk by.
So why would there need to be any restriction whatsoever? Do you not trust the people who would open that shop? Every single one of them? With no evidence? No history of anything ever happening?
You know, booze is being sold and stolen everywhere to young people all the
This
time.
doesn't seem constitutional to me. That arbitrarily you have decided that we cannot be trusted. And why this fictitious distance that you need to be apart from each other? What in the fuck is that
Nothing but
for?
limited business opportunity. You're right. There are all sorts of constitutional challenges. Now I'm getting excited again. We do have a lot to fight for legally.
This is not the way you do business and charge tens of thousands of dollars. Why? Because it was a captive audience that you could take advantage of? You fucking pricks. Idiot city council and all your dumb licensing department sitting there drooling over how much money you can suck out of this.
But it's
Fuck
like
off.
they
Why?
can't even-
What have we done to you?
Right? And they
What
wouldn't
is it?
even they would make more money by letting us operate and pay tax and stuff. So it's like they talk, it's this bizarre thing where like, we want all this money and all these taxes, but we don't want any of it available or sold. So it's kind of like all this money is being made on the non-existence of cannabis. And then the edibles regulations right now. you know,
That's
get
going to
started on
be
that.
frightening.
Each 10 milligram piece has to have its own package inside a package with an excise stamp on it, which is insane and environmentally destructive. And
They're not trying very hard to make it a good sound thing.
they're trying very hard to make it a new prohibition. Hashtag new prohibition.
Only available at Shoppers Drug Mart. Don't you know?
And tweed stores. Ew.
I don't know. Like, really? Like, what did we do to you? What's your beef?
It's
Come on. What happened?
because this is truth. It's because people don't believe in authority when they start using cannabis. This is the biggest threat to government ever.
Well, I don't know. We don't act
That's
all
nice.
that different. We just smoke a joint and walk down the street where other people don't. Right? That's the only difference between us and anybody else. We conspire and see the government is so unjust when it comes to cannabis. For sure, everyone sees that. So that's what awakens them to it. Right? It's the idea of what you're doing to cannabis, and I have always done. For some fucking unknown reason, I wish you'd stop. Right? Like, really? When do these people get their rights? Why are you denying everybody the right to have a substance that doesn't appear to have any bad consequences? How can you do that? Like, really? I
It's-
don't get it.
It comes down, I think, just to straight greed because when people have more cannabis access, they drink less alcohol. They they use fewer opioids and painkillers and like.
I know.
Wait,
So
lot of-
Molson's gets in bed with Canopy Growth, and off they go and make
yeah,
their
you're right. They're already
infused
doing
drink.
it. Okay.
Go for it. I don't care.
So why are they still bugging us about it?
Yeah,
Question
like,
still.
Leave
It's 'cause
us
we make them
alone to
look bad.
do it.
We
Well,
make them look bad because people.
well, we don't
see-
want to.
They make themselves
Right.
look bad as the reality. It's called a foil. You know, if you're a shitty person, but there's nothing to compare to. Nobody knows you're shitty, but if there's like someone really awesome standing beside a shitty person, suddenly you're like, oh, dude, you stink. I don't want to be around you. You're full of shit. And then they go
Yeah.
hang out with the ones that are cool and honest and authentic and that don't want to ruin others. And that's the question. Like you say, why can't we all just take a shot at it? You know, if they want to be the big weed kingpins, okay, sure, go ahead. But why do you need to prevent us? You know, like, is Starbucks, maybe they are, but is Starbucks going around saying that all the small independent coffee shops need to be replaced with Starbucks? I mean, I know they are big and they stomp people out just by virtue of having money, but I mean, do they actively... Like, I guess, is that how these businesses are working? It's just an accidental side effect that they're trying to destroy?
Oh, it's all the same as what's going on here. You just don't know about it because it's always been going on. This is a new industry that's under a microscope that everybody's watching.
Yeah.
And you see, without a doubt, how the business world works.
Right.
And it's fucking ugly.
Trading and scamming and fraud. And
But I don't care. I've always known that. But so what? Like, it's just cannabis here. Like, leave it alone for a while. Come on. I don't know. I'd like to. There must be some way to attack them, or at least make them prove and show the potential danger here to justify your overregulations. That's my beef. Is the overregulation of this is ruining the product.
And we'll make it bad. This is my theory, is that 5 years from now, a lot of people who are using crappy legal weed sprayed with all sorts of pesticides Health Canada allows, they're going to be having negative health effects, possibly. And then the government is going to go, oh my goodness, we've been following up on these cannabis consumers of our legal cannabis, and they're getting sick and they're having problems. So cannabis is terrible. We were right. We better shut down the stores. Like, is that not how it goes? Is that how it's going to go? I don't know. A part of me hopes that
Well, it's not going to be good.
Weed is like
They
it
don't
grows
care.
through concrete, right? Like in terms of actual plants and concrete, you know, you put concrete down, doesn't some plants can kind of
Oh yeah,
break through, so
they'll
it's like I'm
fucking
trying
rip
to-
that concrete apart
Right.
over time.
And we've been under prohibition all this time, right? And cannabis got to where it is today. So I still want to believe in some way that cannabis cannot be contained and that the world is
Well,
overgrown.
it's true.
And that even though they try with all these stupid rules and restrictions, God, every big business is breaking the rules themselves with their creative compliance and whatnot. I mean, they're just all stumbling around, figuring out as they go. It's just the saddest part is that they
Oh,
just
and
won't
yeah.
leave us alone.
You
We just
have
want to
to-
be left alone.
You have to read the news day after day of what town or city opted in or opted out. Now, if the federal government wanted to meet one of their mandates, destroying the black market, you shouldn't have let them opt out.
Right? It guarantees that prohibition remains. which
Why
is
are
like
you
they're
letting
supposed to-
anyone opt out? And why the fuck do these cities have the right to break federal law
It's kind of funny.
and somehow make rules over me breaking the same federal law? How is that fucking possible in our world? Right? City of Vancouver, well, they had no right federally to license cannabis shops and take money
They're all lawbreakers.
in any way.
And they accuse everyone else of being criminals when they're doing stuff themselves. That's what I'm just...
Calling us the black market the whole time. Come on. You called us the black market. You took money. Come on. You took money. How's that work? And then a Supreme Court says, yep, you got the right. You go like, really?
Well, and then
How's
if they
that?
have the right to break federal law, then let us stay open, yo. What's the problem?
Well,
I don't
because they're
understand.
chicken shit pinheads must be run by somebody else.
This is my
Because-
concern, and like you said about conspiracy theories, and I don't want to be too conspiracy theory-ish, but I will say Canopy and Tweed are on the record in our newspapers as far back as 2014 and 15 saying that the city of Vancouver should not license dispensaries medically to be allowed to operate, and the city did anyway with their crummy program. But Tweed all along the way was saying, don't do it, city of Vancouver, don't do it, don't let dispensaries operate. Oh, and then there's also a hilarious thing in Hamilton. It's not hilarious. It's tragic. They had mass raids at their dispensaries.
Yeah.
But
Georgia Peach.
look at this wonderful, amazing lawyer, Jack Lloyd, who's a superhero. Gosh, he's amazing. This guy, a while ago, had a case for a dispensary in Hamilton and won approval for the dispensary to sell illicit cannabis to any patient with a federal authorization. So the MMPR, like if you're part of the LP system and you had a card, but your LP didn't have weed or whatever, you could go to this dispensary that had a court-ordered protection to stay open and get cannabis. So it was a very unique win in Hamilton. And then this raids just happened. These raids in Hamilton, apparently the police are doing these raids in violation of a court order because they're not supposed to, right? Possibly, yes.
Oops.
Because he has a case that says you're not allowed to shut them down if they. So I don't know. But there are many challenges and opportunities ahead. There's a BC dispensary that got permission from their city government to stay open. It's called the S&M Sweet Shop. It's in Gibson. They got
Well,
city.
I've seen a little update to that
Oh, what's the
story.
update? Is it good or bad? I haven't been
Well,
watching.
one of the counselors. This is Gibson's. This is a small place
Yeah,
here
it's a tiny
with
little
fucking.
island coast.
I don't know who the counselors. Come on, these are just fucking people that live next door to you.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Like they really are
it's a
here in
cozy
these
little
places, and now they're going. Well, we need to put that on hold because we need to talk to our lawyers and insurance company.
Why?
Right? Because they think they're liable. They might be liable if somebody ate a gummy. Oh my God. What are we going to do? We could get sued for millions. This is your neighbor saying this at a fucking city or town council meeting. Because he's the only guy, he's a nice guy, so he got elected to this town council. These people are making some pretty lofty decisions across Canada here.
Yeah, get yourself on the city government if you want to mess stuff up.
Well, you're talking about my federal right to have cannabis, for fuck's sakes. The tiniest little town and town council can overturn that?
It's so depressing.
How is this possible?
Okay, well, that is officially very sad news on top of so much more sad news. There's got to be a good news story out there. Let's see now. Is there a good news story? Good
Yeah,
weed world story.
The sun's going to explode.
That's awesome. Because
There
I
you
don't
go.
want to deal with this shit.
Just for a week. Come on.
Okay.
Yeah, who
Oh,
knows
man.
what?
Meh.
I don't know.
Same as it ever was, I guess. A bunch of bullshit.
It's really not
over
much
bed.
different. We're still being hunted and fucking harassed and taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. So I don't know what to do anymore. Like really.
Like you said, it's the
And like
same
Jody
as-
said, so many other people have leaped on board now that you go, wow, like you gotta fucking duck and weave a lot more than you used to here. All the crows out there.
Yeah, I go to these
hyenas.
events and it's just not. It's not what I'm into.
And an unusual desire to crush. See, it all worked very beautifully, if not planned already. I don't know. To eradicate or do their best to eradicate us.
Yeah, magazines,
Like
media.
the cannabis culture that exists already. They want to
Yeah.
get rid of that. In the meantime, I bet they had a fucking meeting and probably said that out loud.
For sure though.
How
Because
you know?
that's why they want to say they need the new whitewashed version, the Apple Store, where people feel comfortable because apparently original cannabis people are uncomfortable.
Oh, that
somehow.
was one of the lottery winners in Saskatchewan that said that. A lottery winner, not a
You don't want
cannabis
all the
person.
cannabis leaves on the wall and Bob Marley and stuff. It's like, yo, if you want to find cannabis anywhere in the world,
Yeah.
you look for Bob Marley or the leaf.
listen
Get
for-
out of here. Get out of here with your fake weed and your fake legalization, your fake freaking fraudster means of trying to take people's money through a corporate cartel government scheme. I hate it. I hate it. It's so depressing.
And then your staff comes and buys weed from us?
Because they know it's the right stuff. It's the good, proper cannabis. and
That's crazy. So,
What a trip.
wow.
What a trip we're in.
Maybe that's a good sign.
I hope so.
Maybe we're still on the right path here. I don't know how it could ever end. It's going to be difficult to convince them
I
that
can't-
the weed that I sell should be able to come from the very same place it comes from now.
Well, no,
How are we going to figure out a program around that? You want to plug it in? Plug it in. Right? Come up with something.
no, they don't want it. They don't want it. The cops
no.
need people to go after. They got all new cannabis crackdown teams and joint enforcement
Across the
units and
land.
shit all across Canada. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Up towards $1 billion when you add up each provincial and the federal and the municipal budgets all being pledged per year. $1 billion extra per year. It was only $500 million before. So wait, this is why when I try and get hopeful, I'm like, maybe things will be okay.
How
It's
can
like,
we
oh.
take advantage of this
Yeah.
cannabis? Huh. So I guess, the moral of the story is maybe we had a hand in changing this law.
I thought you were going to say maybe we had a hand in or place of blame for this crisis mess.
Well,
I wonder,
no, I
right?
take no fucking blame
Me
whatsoever
neither,
for
right?
any of
Because
it.
it's not we fought harder than anybody, so it's not our fault. It's fucked up.
It's
We did
legal
everything-
now, but it is legal.
Yeah,
The
it's
cat's
legal,
cat's
okay.
out of the baggie,
Yes.
right?
In people's
So
minds, yes.
we accomplished that at very least.
But there's some. You want to know about some of the side casualties? One of the weirdest things that the Cannabis Act. This is our legalization. It's called the Cannabis Act. The librarians at schools across Canada, where students in schools get newspapers delivered, have issued a notice of alarm because they're no longer allowed to have newspapers in schools. Why? Because cannabis companies are advertising in these newspapers. Why? Because these newspapers are giving favorable coverage to said companies. So the Cannabis Act says that cannabis advertisements and information cannot be seen by anybody under 19. Well, newspapers that go to schools have ads in them for cannabis. So the Cannabis Act prohibits newspapers from being in schools. So Post Media and all the newspaper publishers across Canada have collectively agreed that to not violate the Cannabis Act federal law, they will no longer send newspapers to schools where people under 19 may be present. So now the librarians and teachers in schools across Canada have sent out a letter. This is like about 2 months ago. I put it on Twitter. They sent a letter out expressing alarm to the government that students are no longer even able to read the news because of the Cannabis Act. Fucking bullshit.
Wow.
Like, this is prohibition nonsense. I can't help it. I'm swearing because I'm speaking truth right now. My truth is I'm angry.
Apologizing for
But, like,
fucking swearing
because
on this show.
yeah, I'm not going to have any other media shit for a while. Screw them all, these liars and bastards. I mean,
They're just as complicit,
that's
right?
what's so scary about it. I can't believe, like, I kind of, for so long, media was our friend in that whenever I got an interview and was able to speak truth, I accomplished a lot by being able to be invited to speak on the news. That's one of my main goals. But now I'm realizing these guys are reporting so many falsehoods and lies that I can't trust them. I don't know. I'm a little nervous to speak to any media anymore because it might be manipulated and stuff.
Well,
So-
yeah, I don't like their point of view at all. Well, their point of view is whoever they're talking to.
Well, a
Right.
lot of the things are trying to get salacious or stories making me look like I've had the strangest shit lately, but it's like cannabis culture and all the old school activists, they want us to be erased. It's like there's only room for the new school and all the old.
Well, yeah,
People,
and the media
you know.
is glommed out there to look for them. right? And anybody who's a self-promoter stepped up.
Oh, hold on, there's a lot of
Right.
self-promoters in this
And
industry.
that's all it
Jeez.
took is a self-promoter because those out looking knew nothing. So anybody who could say, "Hey, I know something," they'll go, "Okay, well, you're hired. You will be my new expert," which we said on. Right, this
wild,
clown from Tokyo Smoke. What did they call him? Ooh, a pioneer in the industry. They called him a pioneer. The guy did nothing. This is how these people roll.
And even Bill Blair and the Liberals being praised for their incredible work. I'll never forget, I was at an event, I think, Neil, you were there too, and Anne McClellan stood up and she's all like, I just want to take a moment to thank all of the government officials and bureaucrats who tirelessly worked for 2 years on this incredible thing and were so amazing. I love you all. What a sacrifice. And I was like, thanks. I'd like to thank the thousands of people who for decades not only suffered and worked hard, but were arrested and criminalized and had their families torn apart and lost everything because government officials like yourself advocated for policies to do just that. So I'd like to thank them for their effort and sacrifice. But thanks to you for your 2 years of hard work.
Did you say that?
Something along those lines.
Oh, beautifully. I'll
But
bet
I
it was
did.
exactly
It was
that,
more appropriate
knowing
because this
Jody.
is Pot TV audience. But I don't know. Maybe I do. Maybe I am too harsh sounding sometimes. I got a little hard over
What can
the
you
years,
do, though?
maybe, you know?
Well, yeah.
Jeez.
You have to steel up against the fucking the onslaught. I don't know. Maybe we should have cashed in years ago.
Well, that's what people are saying. Why didn't you guys just buy stock and stuff? I'm like, geez. But as I said, not the reason.
No, it was never about that. It's actually continues to be about your right to consume a substance that doesn't fucking hurt you
Right? That's
without a great deal of regulation. I don't need all this shit. Nobody needs all this shit. Leave it alone. It'll be okay.
They're only making jobs for themselves.
But now you've gone and done this.
It's a
Like,
mess.
what the fuck?
It's horrible. People are hurting. People are actually suffering for real. People are losing jobs and access to medicine. People are having seizures and going back to their wheelchairs. Man, it's like there's real harm and they're glossing over it. So that's something I want to do too. I want to do like prohibition victims, like either a photo essay exhibit or video interviews, victim impact statements. And on that note, at the Cannabis Culture Dispensaries and others, you can help out by sharing your victim impact statement about how cannabis losses are affecting you, because there is an appeal for the dispensary closure case. We should have a decision about a stay up to the 7th at some point. They might suddenly say, oh, you are allowed to stay open because there are access issues under the charter access necessities and all that. So we don't know what's going to come, but I don't know. What can I say? I have a thing I do want to read because I'm getting super nicely relaxed here, and then it'll be 5:30. But this is something I shared a couple weeks ago. I found it January 13th. It was it's a poem, or it's a write up, and it's called "Anyway: The Paradoxical Commandments." And it's nice to read when you're having the shit kicked out of you. People are illogical, unreasonable, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people will accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Do good anyway. If you are successful, you will win false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. The good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. The biggest men and women with the biggest ideas can be shot down by the smallest men and women with the smallest minds. But think big anyway. People favor underdogs, but follow only the top dogs. But fight for a few underdogs anyway. And what you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. People really need help, but may attack you if you do help them. Help people anyway. Give the world the best you have, and you'll get kicked in the teeth. Give the world the best you have anyway. Dr. Kent M. Keith helps me out.
Well, that are that's very good and inspiring, to say the least, and right.
Because we do good. We've done lots of good. That's all we've
Well,
ever
yeah,
done.
that's
so-
all we've ever tried to do, right? But they don't listen. It doesn't matter what we say, what our intentions are, or anything, because they won't talk
They
to
just don't
us.
care. And even worse than like not caring, they actually do care that they want to ruin, right? Like that's the thing. Like it would be nice if they didn't care about us and ignored us and left us alone, but it's not like that.
No, they want to take it
Silence
away and spank us for what?
Get
For
punished.
standing up and trying to do what you're doing?
Right? Oh, and then that's
Because
another horrible, sad piece of news about this all. There's a guy who was selling cannabis, got sentenced to 3 years in Ontario. He appealed it. The Ontario Superior Court came back, and the argument was that how could this man, who's older, and I think he's a patient too, but how can he be sentenced to 3 years for cannabis when the government is selling cannabis itself? Like the fact that it's legal now should change the sentence. 3 years is excessive. But the court came back and said, nope, 3 years is just right. It doesn't matter that the government is selling it. There are still illicit cannabis offenses. So this is legalization, folks.
Yeah.
3 years in prison, Ontario Superior Court decision about 2 weeks ago. So be careful, be safe, lay low, but don't stop growing and serving the people what they need. Because, they can't eliminate it. They can just try and hurt people along the way. But, I don't know. It's a tree of life. It'll be here
Well,
long
just-
after we're gone.
it never ends to blow my mind that if you became the mayor of Vancouver, like really,
It's a weed
like
city.
really, come on,
Vancouver.
what the fuck? What
How?
happened? Like, how could you not see and know that you're missing the fucking boat
Yeah.
on this? You could be a cool guy.
Yeah, he got
you could
arrested
be.
at protests and broke a court order himself. I mean, this guy is like all activist advocate in every way until it comes to cannabis. That's why I think, like you said, someone else is making these decisions. Someone else up in Ottawa is looking at Vancouver and saying, don't you dare be an outlier showing what cannabis could look like. Because the rest of the country is stepping in line. Bill Blair came with his billy club and told him so. So you better shut him down, and that's what's happening. That's my theory. No evidence, really, just anecdotal. But they don't want to let us be free because it shows what freedom looks like. And if you eliminate what freedom looks like, people forget, and then they settle for whatever they get. So that's not cool. Yeah, keep the culture alive.
Wow.
That's our show, I
You get the hell out of here after that. Who could?
Yeah.
I could not.
Yeah, no, it's good to see
Well,
you. I just
lovely
snuck
to
in.
have you here.
I don't really,
That was
exist
great.
much elsewhere, so it's gonna be low key for a bit. Just tired of this
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, it is getting a little exhausting. Holy cow.
And we're saying goodbye to our lounge at Davy and a lot of good people. 50 people having to lose their jobs. That's pretty sad. These are friends and community members. Man, I was at the location just the other day for a photo I had to do, and a customer came by with his wife, and he was like, Jody, thank you so much for all the truth telling and all the work you guys do. And I'm so sad you're leaving because I live right around the corner, and I'll do my best to come to wherever you guys are. But man, it's scary when they went.
Well, everyone's like that. Like it's
know.
it's just
Heartbreaking. It's really
unreasonable, right? The government is not being reasonable. And there's a reason for that. People who are unreasonable have a reason. Right? They have a reason. And you go, fuck you. You're not
Control
supposed to
and
have a
money.
reason. You're supposed to be reasonable. So I don't know. I don't know how we can attack it, but
Keep trying.
just never know.
On that note, this Friday from 1 to 3
Yes.
at City Hall in Vancouver, there is a rally for
There's
everyone
the-
who cares about dispensaries and access and patients. Not
1
just in
p.m.
Vancouver.
at City Hall.
Yep, City Hall. It's like a nice peaceful protest. Bring your emotions, share your feelings and experiences. We want people to express how, you know, this is really impacting people's lives. You know, it's really being painted as, oh, dispensaries are upset 'cause it's just a bunch of drug dealers losing their cash cow. Nuh-uh. Like, they should spend just a day at any one of these places and they'd see. But they don't want to see because then they'd feel bad.
That's why they don't come and ask.
No. So, but we do have a lot of supporters and people. If you go online at cannabisculturedispensary.com and other websites, there are campaigns to save dispensaries. And like I said, the appeal for the dispensary closures and other appeals in place because patients are suffering. And that's a charter right violation. So we have good standing, but we need people to stand with us and send in their information. So if you go to twitter.com/Jody Emery, I've recently shared the ways you can contact the lawyers working on appeals and all that stuff. So, yeah, thanks.
Cool.
Cool. Activism lives on.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
we're going to get out of here. Thanks for being in the house, Jody.
Yeah, thanks
and
for having me on. Yeah, we're gonna light one up before we
yes, let's do that. Well, we can keep talking while we smoke it.
go. I'm trying to think of some other funny news stories. There's something good. There's got to be some good weed news. Is anybody in the chat room talking about good weed news? Does anyone have anything exciting or?
25th anniversary of Force One.
Yes, it's big. That's coming up.
Yeah.
Is it the 24th or 25th? We have a lot of arguments over discussions about. You know.
I love this family. We have such good arguments about shit, right?
Funny. I wish we had a live stream on during
The
these
420 meetings are priceless.
meetings.
I don't know.
It's either been held 24 times. This is the 25th time, or it's been. No, it started in
Doesn't matter.
1995.
It's all-
Apparently, I don't know. So
Whatever
figure
we
that out.
say it is.
Yeah, long time, decades.
25, 20.
But yes, and that's also again the time when Mark showed up in Vancouver and did the Marijuana and Hemp newsletter and Hemp BC, which evolved into the Cannabis Culture magazine and Pot TV and the BC Marijuana Party and the BC Marijuana Party bookstore, which turned into Cannabis Culture headquarters, and the BC Marijuana Party Vapor Lounge, Cannabis Culture Lounge, and it's a lot. It's got lots of history. In fact, we were cleaning out the basement last night. I have a photo. It's of the tiny little tape that says Jody Show on it. From when we used to do the Jody Show. We found all the old Pot TV archives. So yeah, we're gonna.
Oh, those
there's so much
computers.
history. Oh man, I found incredible things. Piles of records of donations Mark made, like John Conway, the lawyer, sending invoices and being like, "Thank you so much for offering to pay for this cancer patient's legal bills for being arrested for their medical marijuana." It's like $30,000. Mark just sends off checks. $5,000 for Steve Cubby. $10,000 to the Civil Liberties Marijuana Policy Project. Another 5 for you, 9 for you, 10 for you. Money all over to every cause and every effort that ever made shit happen. So nope, I'm not letting that be forgotten. We got the proof, not some social media bullshit. We got real solid evidence of the history of this organization, and I'm so excited to bring it all together. We're going to get all the magazines scanned front to back. They're posted online. You can scroll through.
Nice. That'll
Not
be good.
now, but like they will be, yeah.
I wrote some articles that you'll see there.
This one did lots of stuff. Same with the Grow Show, right?
Grow show for years.
Tons of years.
Something-
on VHS tape,
Something
kids.
on Pot TV. Oh, on fucking VHS and worse. It was maniacal making those shows.
The little mini tapes, and you put them inside the bigger one, and it pulls it out so it fits the big cassette. I used to film with my little video. I did some Pot TV work, minimal, but captured footage of the news stuff, and that was way back.
I used to have to shoot the show on my video camera and then upload very small amounts to my laptop, which had like no
This is the
memory
year
in those years.
2002.
And then I had to edit that and load it back to another tape. Oh, it took fucking forever.
Kids these days, you have no idea how easy you
How
got it. Like,
easy you
I remember
got it
doing
now.
cassette tapes too, and like trying to make sure you pause it and get the video. Like you'd film off the TV, and at the beginning or end of music videos, the VJ was it called? They did the video guy would be like, and
yeah.
that was or whatever,
Yeah, VJ. Yeah.
So you have to like cut the song right before that guy starts talking, and you're like working your 2 cassette things, and you have to like get the audience. Yeah, I did some of that stuff. I'm 34. I got stories.
Yeah, it was amazing actually, Pot TV
That
when
was an
it
incredible
when
thing.
it kicked off. Like right away. I remember being in Mark's basement, maybe I don't know how many even shows into it. Talking to a fucking guy in like Chicago or something. And you're going, oh my God,
Internet.
like we couldn't believe, like I
Guys,
could
this
not.
didn't exist. There was no video. There was no YouTube. I mean, Pot TV, when it launched, it was the year 2000, or might have even been 1999. It started as
Yeah,
an audio
2000 or something.
radio stream show or something. Anyway, the point being, in the newspapers, we have this in our archives, there is an announcement that Canada's Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, is launching online video on the interwebs, whatever it's called, internet work.
World Wide
World Wide Web. And then there was a launch party to celebrate this new modern technology. At the same time, Mark Emery, the marijuana activist, started a Pot TV news network, whatever, and had a party too. So it was like there
I
was
do
the
remember
news that first time any video websites were ever online. Mark or somebody must have come and been like, "This is going to be the future. Get on the internet." He also had one of the first ever blogs when blogs didn't exist.
Cost us a bundle to
On Pot
have
TV.
Pot TV
$250,000
streaming out to the world. We
Yeah.
had to pay for that then, and it was a lot. Oh my God.
You had to have a dial-up modem that somehow loaded. I think it was like it would just first
Fucking
load
still
a few
photos is
still-
what people were seeing. But they were seeing shit
And
and
it got
listening.
better
It
and
was
better.
more like radio, really. But
But it
it
got better.
still fucking blew me away.
Yeah, and that was my introduction watching the shows and stuff. I remember Damon Larson doing, it's like night vision, it's green. He's like going through the woods. It's mushrooms, I think he's on. I don't remember. But old videos, way old videos on Pot TV, ancient times. And that was when I got introduced to was, wow, there's video on the internet. Holy smokes.
Gee, government, how'd you miss all this stuff? Like, really, how'd you miss everything that we've talked about?
Some of them feel
Like,
like
what
they've
a-
been watching it and saying, that's the right way to do it.
Yeah,
Let's do the
not let
opposite."
them have that.
Man,
You
we
can't
should've-
have that.
We should
No,
have described
no.
this. We should have described
Yeah.
lots of regulations, tons
Yeah.
of police. That's what we want. yeah, give
we
us the
gotta
good old
crack down
crackdown
on-
squads. That's what we want. And then the government will be like, oh shit, we better make it liberally legalized.
Yeah, that's what I thought
Damn,
too.
we totally messed this up.
Shouldn't
by-
have told them.
Damn. Damned if you do, damned if you don't is the thing, right? Like, so. But again, like that whole anyway poem, it's like, who knows what comes of it in the end? But do what you can anyway. Do good anyway. Ultimately, on
Always.
your deathbed, it's just going to be you and yourself and how you feel about what you did with your life. So forget all those who would bring you down and do good for yourself and the ones you love. That's my new philosophy.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too. Keep your friends close and screw all your enemies. Keep them far, far away.
Yeah.
Just stay good with good
Stay
people.
away from them.
Only good vibes. Only good vibes. Okay.
And thank you, folks, for joining us today, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for
Until
letting me
next
hop in.
time, peace and pot. Come on, it's just weed.
Legal pot legalization is certainly taking time to squeeze out the illegal pot. Illegal.
Mayor of Vancouver insists he understands the issues, but Kennedy Stewart says the illicit shops have to face up to reality.
Realize that the jig is up, really. There's nowhere else to go.
The illicit shops have to face up to reality. Face up to reality. Face up to reality.
If my daughter can't access it, where am I left to go?
Face up to reality.
They are literally saving her life today.
Face up to reality.
Please don't shut down the clubs where I have access to medication I need.
Thank you.
Black market.
Medication.
There's nowhere else to go.
Researchers at Social Science Research Network, the Journal of Health Economics, the U.S. National Institute on Drug Abuse, the National Bureau of Economic Research, and the Journal of the American Medical Association. All of these studies have proven without a doubt that cannabis, not just cannabis itself, but cannabis dispensaries reduce deaths and overdoses by up to 33%, and that is a significant number. That is huge.
So the harms caused by closing these stores is immediate. Loss of access for thousands, loss of hundreds of jobs, and a loss of a safe alternative to medicine, to opioids and other addictive drugs.
We need to have treatment on demand, and this is treatment on demand. We need to have safe access to safe drugs. These are safe drugs. We need to have choices for people. This is the choice they need to make.
Important social issues require taking a stand, even when bigger powers at higher levels of government might be telling you to do otherwise. But when it means that it's an issue like this, where you can make a difference by taking a stand, where Vancouver's historical reputation as a drug policy leader could make a difference, you have a court decision now telling you you have the right to do whatever you would like to do in order to address this. So please consider my recommendations to the task force, and thank you for your time.
This is my daughter, Haley. Without medical cannabis, she is at risk of life-threatening status epilepticus. One thing that she wanted to say.
Sure.
Please not shut down the clubs where I have access to medication I need.
Thank you.
Tell you that cannabis saved their life. You know what's going on? We're bagging up stuff for the Cannabis Substitution Project. These are the care packs that we give out. We give out about somewhere between 160 to 200 of these packs every time that we're here, twice a week.
And what's in the packs?
The packs would have, typically there's gummy, candy there, a cap, a joint. We have these other caramel types of gummies. But unfortunately, because of the city's clampdown on dispensaries and the transition to the non-medical legal government stores, the access to cannabis edibles has really been reduced. So we had 150 dispensaries here, none of them government stores, all of them medical to a degree, all of them with edibles. And that was just the marketplace, you know, the demand and then the supply coming to meet the demand. And the city decided to interfere with that, and now there's people really struggling to find what they need out there.
It's hard for
and
me
to the
to
point
get
where we
edibles
have
and afford them.
180 people going to line up here today in the rain for hours
I know,
to get, you know, a bag like that. There's a great need in this city that's not being met.
It made me feel different. And probably where I went off the rails was getting into the acid and the speed and heroin. But fortunately for me, I didn't go overboard, and after doing a week run one time, getting sick and diarrhea, I turned my life over to God, became a Christian, but I still smoke weed. And now I've had 3 surgeries, and I don't take meds.
So it actually gives me pain relief, as well as helps me with epilepsy, as well as anxiety, panic attacks. Yeah.
I'd rather smoke weed or any edibles than go back to pills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pills kill.
Yeah.
Weed doesn't.
I don't depend on buying pharmaceuticals and speed drugs as much anymore because I take care of my physical pain with medical marijuana and the edibles that are provided for me.
Cannabis helps me a lot.
It's really ironic that police would waste their efforts on edibles, marijuana edibles, when there's actually people dying from opiate crisis. I don't see anybody dying from eating edibles. I see people being well and not taking opiates because they feel better, they don't need to take it.
It keeps me calm and keeps me pain-free.
Awesome, thank you. The cannabis helps me eat with my meds.
Yeah.
Because I have a hard time eating with my meds. So I eat like gummy gels, Billy Bombs before I eat, and then I'm able to like have a meal.
That pink is healed.
Yeah.
Scab's gone.
Yeah, that's from the oil.
This arm was broken. Like that, the one package, you've got enough. You've got enough of it. It doesn't take an endless amount, just that one dose per week or day or whatever it takes you. And I'll put it down. I'll put it down and say, I don't need it anymore, I'm fine.
No, it's a nightmare just getting housing. I use it, I eat it, I smoke it, and I use the cream for my arthritis.
Now it gives people an alternative to what other people would give you as a bad button, and this is the right button to get. It's been with us for thousands of years.
And now because of political complications, we can't deal with it as mature adults. So this is a healing Band-Aid for us economically, if people will just free up the situation and allow the garden to grow.
My husband Doug and I are the owners of the S&M Medicinal Sweet Shop over in Gibsons, BC. We're a seed-to-table edibles company, so with that, I grow all of the cannabis that goes into all of our edible products that Doug makes. We started the company originally for Doug. Doug was on narcotics for 25 plus years. 5.5 of that was oxycodone. He really needed to get off of it, so he decided to make edibles. So we started making edibles, and he slowly weaned himself off of methadone.
I'm using it medically for 44 years because of my heart.
I smoke sativa, and I find sometimes it just gives me a little bit of energy.
She can't walk. She has diabetes, and her legs swell up so bad and sores. She can't walk. I can. So I come all the way from New Westminster and get this, take it home, and give most of it to her.
Edibles in this city are unaffordable for low-income people. The taxing of medical cannabis is wrong. Please don't tax our medical cannabis. We need it. It saves my life. It saves their life. It'll save somebody from opiate death. How many? 230 people. That is the biggest lineup we had so far this year.
Help people with offsetting the use of street drugs because they kill people. The lack of access is definitely causing deaths in this city. So shame on the government, shame on our municipal government for not allowing the free access to medical dispensaries and edibles, which should be happening.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.